Today I'm going to talk to you a little about smoke detectors, radon detectors, and maybe carbon monoxide detectors. I know you're fired up to hear about smoke detectors. Anyway. Oh, bad already, huh? Everybody needs to know about smoke detectors. You're going to have them in your house, and by law you have them in there. So some of the stats about smoke detectors are, in 2010, on average, someone dies in a house fire every 169 minutes. In 2010, fire department responded to 3,800, I can get my numbers right here, 300,000 home fires. Most victims in home fires die from smoke, not from burn. Cooking is the primary cause of residential fires, and alcohol contributes to an estimated 40% of residential fires. Therefore, do not drink and cook. Over 1/3, 37% of home fire deaths occur in homes that do not have smoke detectors. This is obviously one of the smoke detectors. You've seen these before. Probably put batteries in them. There's two types of smoke detectors. One is photoelectric. You've probably encountered those before. You know, they work as if you would go into a store, you open the door, ding dong, the little bell goes off, you break that electric beam, that electric eye beam. Consider yourself just a big smoke particle. That's the way these work. It goes off, the smoke comes in, deflects the beam, it makes this wonderful alarm sound that you always enjoy. The second type is one like this one, and it contains, or what they call a ionization, and it contains a small amount of americium, which is actually regulated by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and actually says it right on this wonderful device when you open it up. These things have radioactive material in them. Did you know that? Isn't that neat to know? And I found that out because I was reading it in the bold print of the instructions right here. Because this is what I do. I sit and read these wonderful things. Ionization smoke alarms carry small amount of radioactive elements distributed with a license from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Here's some other trivial facts about these wonderful things. Smoke detectors are not substitutes for insurance policies. Did you know that?
No.
Oh, well, it says it right here in the instructions.
But it reduces your insurance rates if you have them.
Ah, well, that's good to know. You can bring that up too for a tip. Alcohol and drug use may impair one's ability to hear the smoke alarm. Now, if you've experienced that, I wouldn't suggest admitting to it. But smoke detectors here, they have a life expectancy of about 10 years. And actually, people have called me to change out their smoke detectors in their homes and go on in there and swap them all out and make sure they're new and up-to-dated. They asked me, you know, what's the best one to have? And I'll tell you, the best one to have is the one that has a fresh battery in it that's under 10 years old and that tests out to be good. And the reason why I say that is I've gone to many homes and I look up there and sure enough, this thing's open and the battery's taken out of it and it's disconnected. Doesn't do much good in that state. About these things also, there's other types of them. One is they get hardwired into the house. You'll see two wires coming out, a red. Actually, there'll be a red, a black, and a white. The black and the white are for the hardwiring, and that'll use the house current and supplement it and make sure it stays on. The red wire is for the interconnect system. That runs to all the other smoke detectors in the house. So when one goes off, they all go off. It's kind of like kids start screaming, they all start screaming. And the interconnect system, I think, is good and viable, you know, if you live at Hearst Castle. But, you know, if you've got a small house, I don't know if you need to have all of them going off at once. But, you know, if your house is wired that way, you might as well take advantage of it. So, oh, okay. So that's kind of the spiel there for smoke detectors. You got to go pick them up at the store. The ionization ones cost a little less. They're about $7 for those. And the photoelectrics, they think, are about $12. Photoelectrics are supposed to be better for a smoldering fire. Like a mattress, and the ionization, this type, is supposed to be better for having a flaming fire, but they're all UL approved by the Underwriters Laboratory. They all meet their same specifications, and so I don't believe that there's really one that's better than the other one. They're all the same on those. So the next thing we're going to talk about here is this wonderful thing called a carbon monoxide detector. Arnold Schwarzenegger put that into law last year, 2011. You're supposed to have one of these things in your house if you're selling your house. And you can pick these things up here at Home Depot as well. They're about $20. You plug them into the wall, this one in particular. This one has an alarm on it, and if removed by the child, it starts beeping away. So you know, I guess it's good to have if your kids are always pulling things out of the wall. So where do you get your carbon monoxide or your CO2 from? Well, it comes from any sort of combustion in the house. And from that, I'm saying, you know, your gas stove, where you're using your broiler, you're using your oven, you're using your stovetop, your water heater, even your dryer, and of course your furnace in the house. Those all produce carbon monoxide. And so that fumes can get into the house. You can't breathe it, you know, you can't smell it, you do breathe it. You can't taste it, but it gets into the house and it kills about 500 people a year. That's what the stats are for carbon monoxide death. Some of the symptoms of carbon monoxide are nausea, headaches, dizziness, fatigue, drowsiness, confusion, shortness of breath, flu-like symptoms. And I read that and I thought, you know, that's just symptoms of getting up and going to work.
Living in LA.
Yeah. But the law is that you're supposed to have a carbon monoxide detector in every level of the house. So if you've got a 2-story house, you're going to have 2 of them. If you have a basement, you need to have one down there too. And so they're pretty straightforward to have these things. I asked my sister, she's a chemist, I said, well, where's really the best place to put this? And she says, well, optimally, what you want to place your carbon monoxide detector is at the level of your pillow on your bed. You're most susceptible to receiving and becoming under the influence of carbon monoxide when you're sleeping. And so she mentioned that, because that's normally where you would be sound asleep, and that would when you'd be most affected by the carbon monoxide. But I don't think I would want to put this. I'm going to put this right where they recommend putting it, and this one actually plugs into the wall, so that's where it's going to go. So that's your symptoms of carbon monoxide. And you'll have to get one of those if you sell and buy your homes. So I did have one other topic, and that was about radon. And radon is an interesting thing. 21,000 people die a year from radon. That's 40 times more deaths than that of carbon monoxide. You're really susceptible to having radon in your house, and it comes up from the decay of radioactive materials which naturally are in the earth. They just filter up into the house and they get trapped in the house. So how do you know if you've got radon in your house? You get little test kits. You can buy them at Home Depot. You set them out there. They collect the air samples and you send them in. And they tell you if you're above the limits or not. If you are, you can get a mitigation system and send it out and just ventilate your house. And that's how that works for those. But radon is very interesting. One of the things that I like to watch is Larry Holmes on Homes, you know, and he's this big inspector guy, and he's going to fix this house right. And he goes in and he seals these houses up just as tight as can be, and they're all wonderful and great, and he fixes it right. Well, I took a class, Biology of Cancer, with Dr. Oppenheimer over at Cal State Northridge. This guy's very well published in his cancer research. He's got presidential awards, 15 books he's published. He runs the biology department. Cal State Northridge does a lot of research on cancer. And I'm taking this class, and he's talking about radon. And he says, in my house, my windows are cracked open, the doors are cut high on the bottom. I have airflow in my house. I don't care. I pay dearly for it, but I have air circulation going through my house. And so I'm sitting here thinking, here's a guy on cancer research, published a number of times, telling me to have some circulation going through your house. I'm looking at this guy on TV saying, I'm going to tighten up your house, make it airtight and solid and solidify it so whatever trapped inside is going to be there. And I have this going back and forth little ping pong of, how tight do you really make your house? How good is really that air quality in the house? Is there CO2? Is there radon? What other things are in there that you're breathing in your house? Just something to think about. I don't really have the right answer for that one, but it was interesting that he was talking about how to do that or how that is. So, and then, yeah, you do, but of course then you may let cold air in. But now you're breathing well. You're getting more oxygen into your system, and that's much better than radon. Like I say, 21,000 people die of radon. Now, a year, and that's 40 times more than carbon monoxide. Yet we've got to have carbon monoxide detectors, and we forgo the radon detectors, which is kind of interesting. Radon is much more dominant in the Midwest and Pennsylvania area than it is in this area. You don't hear about it too much. So that's something to know. But it's interesting. Your radon does kill a lot of people, and it is bad, but even so, I think you are 17 times more likely to die from cigarette smoke than you are from radon. So cigarette smoke is still very toxic in your house, and you can consider that. So anyway, that was my little spiel there for you guys today. I hope you guys learned something. I hope I didn't bore you to death with all this wonderful things about radon and everything. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to give me a call. Thank you very much.